a routine every hour or so. When enchantment runs rampant, just wild in the streets. Open sesame, here we go! Arabian Nights, like Arabian Days. They tease and excite, take off and take flight. They shock and amaze.
Alright, welcome everybody to Back in Toons. All month longer we're going to be doing Disney cartoons. This will be our first one. And as the choice of my co-host, Tony, what did you choose this month, Tony?
I've chosen Aladdin, the animated series, not to be mixed with Aladdin, the ongoing movies.
Are they ongoing or are they done?
There were three of them. I consider more than two an ongoing, so
Okay.
you know.
You never know when they'll bring it back, but I think, sadly, I hate to start the episode off with a bummer, but because Robin Williams is gone, I don't think they'll be continuing the series unless they remake it or spin it off into a different direction.
Yeah, or just pull Aladdin 2 and bring in somebody else against his will, one of those things.
Yeah, I have to say that I never continued beyond the original movie because I think I made it about 15 minutes into the second one, and I like Dan Castellaneta. He's great on The Simpsons, and he's great in all his appearances on TV, but something about it just seems so false, so fake. And I couldn't get into it, so I never watched the third movie when they brought Robin back or the TV show.
I have to say the first and third movie were pretty much in tune with each other. The second movie kind of fell off to the side, and with who they had brought in for Robin Williams in the second movie, which he then continued to do the voice for the animated series. The second movie was more of a segue for the animated series, which I personally loved.
Yeah, and we're about to watch the first episode. It's called Air Feather Friends. It's up on YouTube, complete, free. We tend to try to find the episodes online for people so that they can watch it and not have to pay for it, especially if they don't get into it. I would hate to go out, buy the box set, and then you're stuck there I don't really care for this. All right, so we're going to hit play now. So basically what we do on Back in Toons is we just commentate on the series, the movies, whatever is involved with the whole franchise while we watch the first episode. And by the way, I believe that Back in Toons, I think I'm going to start changing the name over to Retro Rocket Entertainment, get all the podcasts that we do under one window. If you want to check it out, it's under retrorocketentertainment.weebly.com. We're also up on Facebook. What's funny is, at the time, I don't think a lot of people liked Iago, but for me, he was my favorite character.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't like him in the second movie and to continue on to the third movie, but if you really watched him in the animated series, he really grows on you then and there. But it's one of those things where a lot of people didn't get that chance because the second movie was kind of cruddy.
Well, I think also Gilbert Gottfried kind of grates on people.
Yeah, I mean, his voice kind of hurts sometimes. People have to kind of get used to it or look forward to it.
Yeah. Oh, I remember the very first time I saw him in Beverly Hills Cop 2, and something so unique about his voice. I know that he's a kind of a niche comedian, but man, when he hits it hard. Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's like Pauly Shore and Bobcat Goldthwait, they have their moments, but then they have their other moments.
Yeah, the funny thing is, I think all three are severely underrated. I think Bob Goldthwait has been vindicated by his movies, but Gilbert Gottfried is still cast aside, and Pauly Shore is definitely, oh wow, do people belittle him?
Yeah. So one of the things that I really enjoyed about the animated series was the introduction of other mythical events and creatures and beings outside of the core Aladdin and his genie.
Right, you have to do that or you exhaust the mythology of the whole show.
Yeah.
If you use the same villain over and over, it just burns itself out. Well, do you realize, what's funny is I'm looking at this again at the voice cast, and I realize I think 90% of the cartoons that we've discussed on this show, Frank Welker has done voices for. I'm serious. Every single time I go to one of the cartoons, his name is in the cast. It's crazy.
Well, it goes back to the whole thing that we talked about last time on the Scooby-Doo episode, is the fact that there isn't a whole lot of voice actor, desirability in America, so it's just the same 12 guys over and over again.
Is it different overseas?
Oh yeah. Well, in Japan particularly, yeah. I mean, it's just in the non-huge animated industries, you're basically stuck with the same 12 guys and actors who voice act on the side.
Yeah, I know it's funny is I look back on a lot of the cartoons when I was a kid, and right now, the guy that's holding up Aladdin, he did tons of voices for Disney cartoons back then. I can't remember the name of the character, but he was in the Goofy cartoon, in the movie too.
Probably.
Well, what's? Do you remember he was the big dog?
Oh yeah.
He did that voice. I saw him in something else too. I guess they did reuse the same people. But I guess if you're also reliable and you have a wide variety of voices you can do, it kind of works like actors. Like there are some guys who do one voice specific. They use that voice over and over, and that's what people are. They're that character, so people use them a lot. Like the guy right now who's playing the big soldier. Or I don't know if you've ever heard of the comedian Fred Stoller. He's not really a highly known voice actor. He's more of a comedian. But he does one particular kind of voice that's really suitable for cartoons.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that one. You'll have guys like, Patrick Warburton, where you'll recognize his voice 12 seconds in.
Right.
And then you'll have guys like Mark Hamill, where 10 years later you'll look back and say, like, that was Mark Hamill? What?
I know. There are people like that. I was looking at this. I guess Scott Weinger, I'm going to say his name wrong, but he was on Full House, and then he got the movie and the TV series, but I honestly don't recall him being in anything else.
Yeah, every now and again you'll find one of those guys that kind of just pop in as a main character and disappear forever in the annals of, background noises.
Yeah, I'm actually looking to see if he's done anything really since Aladdin. Were there more than... I'm looking at this. There must have been... there was a lot of games and spin-offs from Aladdin. I didn't realize that were much later than the TV series.
Yeah.
He's still been doing the voice of Aladdin. In Kingdom Hearts and stuff, the games and stuff like that. I guess he hasn't done one. Kingdom Hearts is still going? I didn't even know that. I thought it stopped.
Yeah. We're waiting on the third game, whenever it decides to come out, but I also like the fact that the crew of the Kingdom Hearts series has gone out of their way to try to bring back original voices from original characters to the series. So.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of, did you see that the Spider-Man cast is coming back? They're reuniting them for a new Spider-Man series?
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I hope they do that right.
Christopher Daniel Byron's coming back as Spider-Man. To me, that's the voice. And in fact, when they were making a movie, I kind of was hoping they were going to cast him as Spider-Man.
That'd be nice.
He looks like Peter Parker. And the funny thing is, besides Gilbert Gottfried, which makes sense because he was in the movie, and probably the only one they were going to be able to score, for a decent price. Jason Alexander, at the time he was already a celebrity, because Seinfeld had taken off by then. So I'm kind of surprised. This is one of the very first times I've seen like a celebrity voice involved with a cartoon.
Yeah, but he only appears for like 3 or 4 episodes, maybe 5 or 6, but as a background character every now and again. Although it's still pretty neat seeing him pop in every now and again. It just, it's like Gilbert Gottfried. I mean, he's been doing a lot of stuff, but he does almost every episode of these Aladdin series. So I was like, that's pretty cool of you.
Yeah, and he did Geico, right? Is it Geico? Yeah, and then they fired him. No. Was it Geico? Am I wrong?
I don't know. Sounds familiar. Was it Affleck?
It was Affleck.
Oh.
He was the duck.
Whatever. Doesn't matter. Either way, yeah.
And then Jason Alexander, of course, went on to do Duckman for a couple years after this.
Yeah. And this TV series had a pretty good crew, but I mean it's Disney, so they can bring in a lot of guys. I mean, look, they even had Tim Curry come in as a villain later on.
Disney was one of the few studios besides Warner Brothers that had the money to really invest in a quality cast, quality animation. Because I think this is really still at that beginning curve where animation was coming back from being cheap. I mean, I love Hanna-Barbera, but their time had kind of come and gone by the 80s.
At this point, Disney was kind of shoehorning themselves into the animated, universe, and the Aladdin animated series was kind of like my introduction into it. Then they started doing like the Timon and Pumbaa, Lion King ones, and all the other like little spin-off series from their movies, and some of them were actually pretty fun.
This is the first movie to TV connection, right? They didn't do a series for any of their other previous movies, did they?
Well, they did a movie to TV for The Lion King. They did it for Aladdin. Aladdin was the first one I personally remembered. I don't know if Lion King had come out before or after this.
No, Lion King came out 2 years after Aladdin.
Yeah, okay. I think there was another one. I can't recall for the life of me at the moment, but this is the one that whenever I think of Disney animated movie to cartoon is the first one that pops in my head.
Yeah, because before this was Beauty and the Beast, and I don't believe there was a movie of that, or a TV series of Beauty and the Beast at all. I know there's some spin-offs, like sequels for direct-to-video.
Yeah.
And then there was Little Mermaid. Did they even make a sequel to that, or has it always been one movie?
They made a sequel that was a little poor for wanting, but there was an animated series of Little Mermaid, that I recall.
Well, I don't remember that at all. So maybe Little Mermaid was first, considering it was 3 years prior to this, but maybe not. Maybe they held off until this was.
I mean, like, they could have put them all at the same time, because, like I said, like, it was around this time that Hanna-Barbera and, the Looney Tunes series were starting to cycle down, and they started to bring these in because they're a new hip thing.
Yeah, but, I mean, you can see the animation's still a little bit lesser quality than the movie, but, I mean, you're talking the movie probably costs 30-40 million, and this is probably a couple million per episode, so it's going to happen.
Yeah, there's no way around that. Color quality, shading quality. But, I mean, even for what it was, like as a kid, you don't know that. You just see that, your favorite movies turn into a regular series with new episodes, and that's just the coolest thing ever.
And, this was on for 3 years. It seems like what the cycle was with Disney was you play this movie out into a TV series that lasts a couple years, and then when we were ready for the next movie, like the way Lion King was ready to be spun off into Timon and Pumbaa, they ended this, and they went and focused on that. And then when Timon and Pumbaa ended, I think they didn't do a Pocahontas, they didn't do a Hunchback, and then I think they didn't do another TV series till Hercules. Am I wrong?
They might have, but I don't recall, at least off the top of my head.
And then they did, of course, the most successful, I think, of all those was the Emperor's New Groove. When they went off into a TV series, that thing seemed like it was on forever.
Yeah, that was kind of surprising where that one went. But, I mean, they got, voice actors like Patrick Warburton on a regular basis doing that, and I'm sorry, like, you have to love that guy. I mean, no matter what he does, you have to love him.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that just set up for the Venture Brothers.
Yeah. Although, coming back to Aladdin, like, there's one thing that kind of really, like, looking back onto it really catches my eye, and, if you go through and watch the rest of the episodes, you're going to see some really dramatic episodes and really, like, kind of scary episodes, because, like, they bring in some really well-developed villains and really well-developed storylines that you wouldn't think would really tug at your heartstrings the way it does.
Yeah, I think the Aladdin series set up a whole new world for... I just said a whole new world. I didn't mean to do that. That was
well played, sir. Well played.
For, animated movies, before this, they were either strictly comedies or they were strictly dramatic.
Yeah.
And this is the first one to really bring in full-on comedy, of course, with Robin Williams' improvisation. Like, he probably expanded upon what the script had.
Yeah.
But, I mean, at the same time, it had a very dramatic story, and if, things didn't turn out right, there's no laughs at the end.
Yeah.
And you fast forward a few years, and that's the standard for animated movies would be the setup of, like, a lighthearted comedy, and then when you dig deeper, it gets darker and darker until, you have a classic kind of Disney ending where, it's the big villain kind of thing.
Yeah.
In fact, Joss Whedon might be taking some notes from this world, because if you look at his stuff, it kind of starts off a little lighthearted and then ends severely dramatic.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's definitely an era where they started really blending that whole, like, it doesn't have to be overly cartoony for kids to enjoy and understand. They can have, a little more depth to it, so that can, carry on with you. And I started noticing it more and more at this point in my life and watching these kind of cartoons. I mean, even with, like, gargoyles and things like that, like, everything just took a darker spin from, like, just the day-old, goofy, cartoony, wonky, all of the plays with no deep meaning to anything at all.
That or you're pitching a toy, which was the plague of the 80s, is, we have this action figure line, we need a cartoon to set it up.
Yeah.
And nothing mattered. There was no evolution, there was no change. It was just, let's introduce this new character, we're done, move on.
Right, yeah, it was like, there's no point, we're not going to follow up with any storyline at all, we're just going to just throw them in, throw them out, be good with it.
You know what's embarrassing is that every single time that I go to spell Aladdin, I always do it wrong. I add one extra L and one less D. I'm a college graduate, and yet I still can't spell something simple as Aladdin.
Well, I figure you don't spend a whole lot of time with Arabic names and things like that in college graduate level English.
Oh, you never know. So I'm looking back at the original movie, since this is where the whole world came from, I didn't realize that Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio, the guys who did Pirates of the Caribbean, they started off here.
Really? I did not notice that.
Yeah, and of course they did. They did Lone Ranger last year, and I feel that movie is maligned for no good reason.
Yeah.
It's really long, yes, and yeah, it relies a little bit too much on Johnny Depp being just Johnny Depp. But I thought it was an entertaining movie.
It's a fun movie, and like Lone Ranger, Green Hornet, and I hate to say it, but like the first Scooby-Doo movie, I lump them together as one single entity, and that's an episodic movie and not a movie that's an episode. You know, so people go in looking for a movie. It's like, no, man, it's kind of just like one long episode that's really fun to watch. You know, you can't take it too seriously, and you just have to enjoy it.
Which is weird because people are okay with binge watching a TV show, which is essentially running a really, really long honking movie together.
Yeah.
But they can't stand it with a TV series or with a
yeah.
movie. Also, before this, I didn't. Technically, they did not start off with Aladdin. They went on to do. They did Little Monsters first. Do you remember that with Fred Savage, Howie Mandel?
Yeah, yeah.
That was their first one. Then they did Aladdin, then Puppet Masters, Mask of Zorro, which is totally awesome. And then, Road to El Dorado, Shrek, Treasure Planet, Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas. So they did a lot of animation.
They did. The Sinbad one was actually kind of fun. But I mean, yeah, it's just the, I don't know, like Aladdin was like your like human character, non-animal character, somebody that you can kind of really look at and be like, that's a person that's doing all this.
Yeah.
Sure, there was like over-the-top creatures joining the magic carpet and the monkey and all that, but like you just see this humanoid figure going through these trials and tribulations, fighting demons. Like this is like, without realizing it, this is young adult D&D. It's like he fights monsters and wizards and like sand dunes and has a magic feather. I was like, yeah, no one really noticed, but this is new D&D.
Yeah, and of course, this is one of the very early like stories to take off. I mean, I know how old Aladdin is. I'll have to check to see, how old the story is. But it's something that's been adapted several times. But the nice part is with animation, it completely frees it up to do whatever pops in your mind. The imagination is only limited by. I said that wrong. The story is only limited by your imagination when it comes to animation because you can do anything.
Yeah.
If they tried to do this as a live action movie, I'm pretty sure the studio would not even have enough money. They couldn't even come up with enough money to finish it.
Yeah, we called that Prince of Persia, and it was alright at best.
Yeah. So I'm looking at this. The director team of John Musker and Ron Clements, I really thought they would have directed more considering this is one of the biggest Disney movies of all time. But I'm looking at this. They did Great Mouse Detective before this, which is severely underrated. No one even talks about that movie. That's the very first Disney movie that I ever saw.
Yeah, it was a good one too. I agree. That was a great one, especially because like it, is a animalistic movie that introduces you to the realm of Sherlock Holmes. Like that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and Roddy McDowell, Vincent Price is spot on in that.
Yeah.
But I'm looking, and they also did Little Mermaid, of course, which is one that saved the Disney studio. During the 80s, they struggled pretty hard, and, as much as Oliver and Company and Great Mouse Detective, like, made a profit, nothing really brought them back up to the old levels, like the classic Disney until Little Mermaid came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, like, my friends and I have quoted that as, like, the Silver Age of Disney. We call it the Golden Age, like Cinderella and Snow White and all that, Maleficent, what have you. And then the Bronze Age is some of the more recent stuff where they are more busily focused on pop music and culture rather than stories. They're finally kind of like rotating back towards Silver Age stylings with like their more recent episodes like Tangled and Frozen and what have you, where they're stepping away from, doing the Pixar's like introducing pop music into the middle of it. That makes no sense whatsoever.
Right. That or they're too focused on their big live-action movies, which, last time I checked, none of their live-action movies really make any money outside of the first few Pirates of the Caribbean. I mean, yeah. Sorcerer's Apprentice didn't make a profit. Tron, as much as I love Tron Legacy, it didn't turn that much of a profit, but that's one of their most successful. But then for every one of those, they have Prince of Persia, they have... Lone Ranger, things that cost like $200 million. Yeah. John Carter. $300 million movie, which I thought was entertaining, but at the same time, you're like, damn, $300 million? Holy moly! And of course, it didn't.
That would have been a little better had they split it up a little bit rather than try to jam all the books into one movie, which is the number one thing that you could do wrong when you're working with any book to movie format.
Yeah. That or only take a small chunk of it and people watch it going, is this the same thing? I read the book. This isn't. It's like every Stephen King movie in the early '90s.
Right? Man,
yeah. Take his name off of them. It's like, no, I'm not. Lawnmower Man has nothing to do with my story. Lawnmower Man.
Yeah.
But after Aladdin, they directed Hercules, Treasure Planet, The Princess and the Frog. But there's a 7-year gap between Treasure Planet and The Princess and the Frog, and that kind of surprises me because. I know animation takes a while, but good God, that's a long time.
That is. I don't recall what they were doing between that. I mean, during that era, they were pumping out a lot of TV story, like the TV series, like live action TV series that I recall.
Yeah, I don't know if they were involved in any of those because I don't know. Also, most of their stuff is hand drawn, and obviously Disney has moved away from hand drawn. I don't know why people don't like it. Why everybody decided CGI is the thing, and why hand drawn animation is just so passe. It's so beautiful.
I think a part of it is like labor costs. It's just cheaper in the long run, so they can pump more things and more money into it. It might just be a lost art as well. I mean, people are all directed towards new things, so there's a whole lot of people that have this style of cartooning back, in their history.
Yeah, it just seems like a lot of the hand-drawn stuff now, if you want to technically call it hand-drawn, is in Flash, which is kind of ugly. I mean, Adobe Flash made sense. That Flash animation made sense when, like, the internet was fresh, they first started doing streaming content. Remember, like, in the early 2000s when, like, Icebox and stuff like that would have their own independent cartoons on there? That makes sense because they didn't have the money. But a lot of these studios, like Cartoon Network, should not be doing cartoons with Flash. But it's so much cheaper. It's ridiculous.
So, like, rewatching this first episode again, I'm starting to realize that, like, this is kind of the segue for children to get used to the whole concept of Pokemon. I was like, he has a monkey and a bird, and he kind of just sends them out to do missions. I was like, never really considered it before, but man, this is like, the shoehorn for the future generations of children and Pokemon creatures.
I've never seen Pokemon. Is that terrible?
Hey, you're not missing out.
Okay. I've never watched any of those. I tried watching Dragon Ball a couple times, and I could not tell you what the hell was going on, and I was just completely lost. And, and of course,
you kind of have to be into it to get to it. So if you're not, into it in the first few episodes, it's never going to happen for you.
Yeah, and plus, I've never been big on anime because I always thought the voice work and, like, the big eyes and the over-exaggerated, I never understood why they were doing that. Which is hilarious since I love things like, cartoons that are automatically over-stylized. Give me a Tex Avery cartoon where the eyes are bugging out of the head, jaw dropping to the floor, completely falling apart. I'm okay with that, but for some reason I can't stand the big, like, big eyes and over. What's going on? Why is he so excited? Was that racist? Me making that sound? I feel like it might have been, and I didn't mean it to be.
I don't think it was particularly racist. It's just a common sound that you'll hear in those Japanese animations. Okay. So, at the worst, I'd say stereotypist, but racist, there's no underlying, like, hate under it. It's just something that you hear.
Okay. I think I'm way too neurotic about that, but you never know. I don't want people going, you dick!
Yeah.
So I was wrong. I thought Aladdin cost about $40 or $50 million. It only cost $28 million. Why is it Disney movies cost like $170 million now? What is that?
Inflation.
Oh, it can't be that much. I mean, okay, so you have the same amount of time being put into the movie, probably 3 or 4 years. Same length and, how long the movie is. Is it the voice actors, you think? You think they're paying a lot of money for percentages out to these people?
That's a possibility, but you also have to factor in that, like, a movie in the 90s was like an hour and, like, 28 minutes. A movie nowadays is usually around 2 hours. People just refuse to watch anything less than an hour and a half these days.
Yeah, I was thinking there's some movies that are really, really short. I walk out of some looking at my clock going, is it halftime? Is this.
Yeah. It's just like people just feel like they get gypped if they don't, the movie doesn't last longer than an hour and a half. So, like, if you actually look at movie times, it's definitely, drastically changed in the last 20 years.
But at the same time, do you feel like you sit there going, wow, this needs to wrap it up? Come on. This is 15, 20 minutes too long. Oh, my God. This is not Lord of the Rings, people.
Yeah, let me tell you about the last Transformer movie.
Well, I have not seen it yet. I have it on hold. I got to watch that.
All right. I'll tell you right now, there's going to be like 3 points where you're like, oh, we reached the end. Nope, still going. Okay, now we reached the end. No, it's still going. Oh, wow.
Does Michael Bay realize that there's more sequels that can come along, that he can end it and move on to the next sequel? You could literally probably cut his Transformer movies in half and then make more money. It worked for Kill Bill.
Yeah, right.
Actually, it seems to be working for every franchise you look at now. It always seems like if it's based on a book or it's finite in any way, they're like, let's cut it up in 2. I mean, even Avengers now is going to be cut in 2.
Yeah, it is. And, like, to a degree, like, there's just so much going on and so much story that you can't, do anything but cut it up into multiple pieces. Which, like, people really talk down about The Hobbit being cut up into 3 movies. It was like, ideally the Lord of the Rings movies would have been cut up into like 9. There was so much more going on and so much more that they left out in order to jam it into a short-term movie that The Hobbit kind of makes sense for it to be 3, full-on movies. Actually, they could have done it in 2 movies, but like to really expand the universe to going into 3 is like I get it. I understand that. It's the basic concept of story writing. You have your beginning, you have your climax, and you have your end.
I don't know. For me, I feel like there's a little too much going on or too little going on in The Hobbit to make 3 movies. But to be fair, I have a very, very short attention span, and if it was a TV series, I think I'd be okay with it. But for some reason, as a movie, I'm just like, oh, cut this down, edit it. There's some people that drool over every extra minute.
Anyway, so we're really ranting and rambling on here.
We do this all the time. You know what? I'm not going to apologize anymore, because if people don't like it, they can just stop the episode. I mean, the Aladdin episode is over with, so.
But to bring it back full circle, though, I mean, like, if you're really looking for something to where, like, you can have fun watching it and at the same time, like, see villains that you both love and hate at the same time. Hell, there was an episode where you get to meet a female genie, and I'm not going to spoil it for anybody who plans on watching it at some point, but, like, like, you really don't think it's going to go the way it does, and you really don't think that you're going to, like, enjoy the characters as much as you do, but they really find a way to get you into it.
Good. I'll check out some more episodes, and eventually I want to get around to watching 2 and 3. The movies, I mean.
Yeah, you can skip 2. I mean, you cannot. But 3, I absolutely say you have to watch. I mean, like, the music's in tune, the characters are all in tune, like, everything feels right in the 3rd movie.
Well, it's the reason why the 3rd one made. I remember when it came out, everybody, like, it blew their minds that it made $75 million in sales the first week. Not in rentals, sales. But back then, you could do that with kids' movies because they weren't downloading them. I mean, kids will watch these movies over and over and over and over until the tape wears out. And I said tape. That's how long ago it was.
Right.
All right, so I guess that's it for me. Any last words?
No, that about covers it.
All right, well, that's it for us. We'll be continuing all month long with other Disney cartoons. If you have any suggestions, let us know. And that's it. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.